Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Becky from RJF Makes, and if you're new to my channel, please give me a subscribe and a thumbs up. I'll go through that in a minute. So if you're watching the channel today, you'll be wanting to wait the sew along. It's the second sew along for the Big Brother Adventurer bag. My eyes are going to keep reverting down here because we are live, and if you're watching this after the live, I'm sorry, but there will be people asking me questions and I will be answering them, and we will be generally having a chit chat anyway. So please, if you're watching, please give me a thumbs up and basically say hi and where you're from, and have you started cutting it out and have you started making it. Let me know if you can hear me because I need to know. I've moved a few things around, so I'm hoping my admin pop in and help me. There's 9 of you watching, so I'm just going to wait down here. Hello Emma, hi, yeah, you're right. Lovely to catch you live. Yeah. Right, okay, so as we got a few people watching, I am going to go ahead and basically get going. Now this is going to be a 3-part live. This is the second part. The first part was done 2 weeks ago, which you can see the link within the description of this channel, of this actual part. Hi Angie. Yeah. Princess. Hi Princess. Thank you Princess. Right, okay. So, Princess, if you see anything naughty in the comments, please can you get rid, please. Right, okay, I'm just going to ask my husband to get rid of this subscribe bit now, please. Thank you. Thanks. Right, okay, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments. Hi everybody. So, right, so the last time we was making the front and the back, and we finished off halfway through on the back. We basically are just missing the outside zip. Now, however, some people have been saying, oh, they're a bit scared of zips and that. So I'm going to start off with the easiest zips today, which is not the letterbox outer zips. I'm going to start off with the actual bag gusset zip, which is basically just straight line sewing rather than having to turn the bag, the pocket lining through and stuff like that. So we're going to pop this to one side and then basically move over to the actual main outer zip. So please may we go to the overhead camera, please, Michael. Right, so we are going to tackle the main zip tonight, as well as the main gusset, and then we're going to work on the lining which will attach to this side, which is the front of the bag. And then obviously the next sew along will be where we make the outer zip pocket for this panel here, as well as the outer zip pocket, the inside zip pocket for the lining of this side, and then we'll sew the bag together. Right, let me just pop some things to one side. Right, so I know I'm going to get some questions. So Country Cow Design actually sells zip pulls, and I'm using these, which is a zebra and a star from her range that she actually sells. Now, I know a lot of people have been asking me where I get them from. I do sell them, but I sell just the generic ones and stuff. Country Cow actually does sell quite a lot of different nice rainbow zippers. So, yeah, thanks, Joe. Right, okay. So, first of all, we're going to move on to the piece. La la la. Where are we? There it is. Yeah. Piece B and piece C. And we're going to make the actual main zipper part of the bag. So we are moving on to this section within the pattern. It's basically this page where I've done the one drawing. So if anybody's new and you haven't already got the pattern, it's actually a free digital download. You have to be a member of Facebook to get the digital download. It's found within my pattern support group, not my club group. And basically, if Princess has the links, she will put that the links within the comments. If you can't see the comments, it's in the description below. Right, okay, so my zip is actually a bit longer than what I actually needed. And the reason being for that is I always like to pull my zip pulls to one side, so they're out the way when I'm actually sewing. So as you can see, they're on this side, and when I'm sewing, I don't need to literally lift up my presser foot and move them out the way, because I'm a bit lazy like that. Also, I use wash away tape, which is a quilter's tape. It's a double-sided sticky tape which you can actually put through your sewing machine. If you do find any glue sticking to your needles, lighter fuel for what you use in lighters to light cigarettes and candles is basically very good. You put a bit on a bit of kitchen tissue and then wipe it down, and it basically gets rid of it. Right, so I got my outer panel B and I got my lining panel B. My lining panel B has got woven interfacing. That's Fuse It, which is my own brand, and that's the woven one. And then on the back of panel outer fabric B, I've got the Fuse It interfacing, which I've just shown you here, and then I've got H640, and I've fused that onto the wrong side of the actual panel. Right, so this is one directional, so I know my sloughs have to be going downwards from the branch rather than upwards. So I'm going to run quilter's tape along this edge here on the main front. And then I'm just going to peel off the backing. Now I know some of you have been having problems with the backing tape. If you burnish it at the start, it will actually come off. I cut my nails. There you go. I'm going to flip that round now, because obviously I've got the sloughs going the right way, or the sloves. I don't know how you pronounce it, to be fair. Okay, so I've got my zip. I'm going to turn that right side facing down, and I'm going to stick the edges of the zipper to the edge of the actual panel piece B. Okay, and then I'm going to get some more quilter's tape and run that along the zip, on the wrong side of the zip, on that same side where I've just stuck it down. Try your hardest not to lose your zip pulls. If you want to, you can, if you're using the nylon zips, you can actually sew over these parts here. My advice is, if this is your very first bag, don't use a metal zip. There's some nice nylon zips out there that actually look metal anyway. So I've got my lining B piece, and I'm going to flip that over so it's wrong side facing up and right side facing down. And I'm going to stick that in place here, along here. Okay, so my tape hasn't got much gluiness to it, so I'm just worried that it might move. So I'm just going to pop some clips on just in case. Don't need that many. Okay, so I'm going to sew using a zipper foot on my sewing machine. I'm going to sew 3/8 of an inch away from the edge, along this edge, and I'm going to reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. Please may we go to the front view camera. Thank you. Right, okay, so I'm using a size 16 needle. You can probably get away with a size 14 on if you're using the fusible fleece. If you're using fusible foam, use a size 16. If you're using PU, use a size 16, obviously, because you are going to get a bit of bulk. When I say PU, for the Americans, that's vinyl. Right, so I've got my zipper foot on. I'm just going to move my needle over to this way. Slow. Sorry. Okay. And I'm putting my stitch length to a standard stitch length of a stitch length of 2.3 or 2.4 depending on your sewing machine. And don't forget to reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. Right, I'm keeping, I'm making, my foot is actually 1 centimetre wide, which is 3/8 of an inch. So I'm making sure the edge doesn't go past the, or in the foot. I'm making sure it's right up next to the foot edge on this side. Okay, please when we go to the overhead camera, please, thank you. Thank you. You'll get used to that if you're new. So the person I'm talking to on my left hand side, sorry, I'm dyslexic, so I always get my lefts and rights wrong. The person I'm talking to over here is my husband. He operates the cameras for me. Right, so I've sewn across this edge here, and I'm just going to press this open. I had one person message me last time and they said, oh, your wool mat is on the mat, the cutting mat. I had to explain that I've got an actual artist board underneath. It's just basically to stop the moisture and the heat from damaging the cutting mat. They were so concerned, bless them. Right, so I'm just opening up the lining first. So has anybody managed to cut anything out or of this pattern, managed to find the pattern? And I'm just going to press this part open here as well. Okay, so now I've pressed that, I basically say in the instructions to go ahead and top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge here. However, I'm not an accurate top stitcher when it comes to using the zipper foot. So I'm going to wait until I've attached this part to this side. I'm going to wait until I've got my walking foot on. But if you are a good top stitcher with your zipper foot, go ahead and top stitch using a stitch length number 4, because there is a bit of bulk there now. Stitch length number 4, 1/8 of an inch away from this actual zip here on this side. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and attach this bit here. So if I'm right, yeah, so I've cut it, so kind of is going to match up. That took me a bit of time to work that one out. Right, so I'm going to run quilter's tape on the actual zipper tape first, along that one edge. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I get this right. So his legs are there, so I'm hoping. I'm going to pop this right side facing down. So this is the C piece, and on the C piece on the wrong side is fusible fleece and fusible interfacing. I'm using the Fuse It woven interfacing all the way out. Now Fuse It is my own brand, one that I've designed with a manufacturer. I'm going to flip this over and obviously just straighten that up if it needs to be. Okay, I'm just going to run quilter's tape along this wrong side of this zipper, and that's on the wrong side of the zipper. My quilter's tape's fallen to bits in the middle here. I might grab the other one, the new one. Thank you, Princess. Haven't made any bags in ages. Sharon, didn't you have a new sewing area built or something? Right, okay, so I'm going to peel off that backing tape and then basically get the lining piece, which has got the woven Fuse It interfacing on the wrong side, and then I'm going to flip that over and obviously match that up there. Okay, once again I'm going to pop some clips in because I know this is going to bounce off by the time I get to my sewing machine. You don't have to do this if it's a good stickiness, but for some reason mine's gone a bit weak. A bit like me at the moment, weak. Right, let's pop those templates. Right, so I'm going to sew 3/8 of an inch away from this edge using a standard stitch length and reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. Please may we go to the other camera, please, Michael. Thank you. So I know I get quite a lot of questions asked. I used to, when I used to sew zippers in, I used to sew with my walking foot on. And I've been asked quite a lot in the Facebook group, private messages mainly, why have I gone back to using my zipper foot. This new machine doesn't like sewing zips on with the walking foot. It's to do with the aqua feed on the actual the machine, which is the aqua feed underneath and on the top, this black box here. It doesn't like it, so I've had to revert back. Plus I also made it a resolution not to be that lazy in my sewing. So I do find it challenging because I sometimes just want to get my walking foot out and use it all the time, but yeah. So if anybody's wondering what machine I'm using the Elna 780 Plus. It's got quite a lot of snazzy lights on. I've had to turn off some of the lights because obviously it messes around with the camera. Right, so I'm going to reverse my stitch at the end. There you go. And while we're here, I'm just going to change my my foot over to my walking foot. And then putting my needle back into the middle position. There you go. Please want to go to the overhead camera, please. Thank you. Thank you. I got a proposal build. She shared. All have been made, ages, dresses. I need to make bags now. Yeah, I had a comment, not on here, through the Club Princess that the fabric in the background was quite distracting. So I bought some Kallax boxes. They weren't cheap, those ones from Amazon. But they're heavy duty because I've obviously got quite a large fabric stash. And to be fair, the fabric was getting just out of hand. I couldn't keep it neat. So they're still on the comic boards, but they're in the boxes up neatly. So all I have to do is grab the comic boards out and I can see them. Right, so I'm just pressing all this to the right outwards. And yes, I'm okay to use my iron on top of the zipper because it's nylon. Because I know some people going, oh no, you're going to burn it, it's plastic. Right, that's going to keep flicking up. So the only thing you can do is get some wonder clips, clip the lining and the outer together along this one edge. Yeah, I done my binding, some of the club projects that we've done, like I did the mock-ups with a blind hem foot and it does work. However, I know a lot of people haven't got a blind hem foot, so I don't demonstrate with a blind hem foot because that gives a nice neat finish, that does. Right, okay, so I'm now going to top stitch both sides and I'm going to top stitch using the stitch length number 4 and I'm going to do it 1/8 of an inch away from this edge here and 1/8 of an inch away from this edge. Please may we go to the front view camera, please, Michael. Thank you. I use a blind hem for top stitching. Yeah, it is accurate. I must admit, it is so accurate. But I know a lot of people, a lot of machines don't actually come with a blind hem foot. But I must admit, I do. This project here that we did in the club, which will be a YouTube project one day. That's using the blind hem foot and then me just slightly moving over the needle a bit. Right, so just lengthening my stitch length to a number 4. Okay. But if you've got a dual aqua feed sewing machine and a walking foot that's dual aqua feed, you will find that you will get a nice even top stitch anyway. And then I'm just going to top stitch the other. I'm not reverse stitching because it's going to be locked in the seam in a minute anyway, so. I'm so lucky when I got this machine because they've gone up so much. They're close to £3,000 now. Please may we go to the overhead camera, please. Yeah, I was so lucky to get it at the price that I got mine at when I first got it. Right, so I'm going to pull those zip pulls into this area now here, like so. Oh, they go so pretty. And I'm just going to trim these parts off here, so this excess. Now, I know it's nylon, but just don't use normal dressmaking scissors. I use what I cut my interfacing with and my stabilizers. Okay, so we're going to pop this to one side now and then just move over to the base gusset. Right, so the base gusset that we need is the D and the H and the fusible fleece and the base lining. So I'll just pop that there for a minute. And then we'll go back to doing the tabs in a minute for the D-rings. Right, where's thread? There's thread. Okay. So I'm getting my H and D pieces, which are these two. So I've got moded grunge here and some of the same fabric. Now see, I've made the biggest mistake ever on mine. So if I show you on my D pieces, but I'm not going to go back and correct it now. As you can see, the animals. Okay, so this is the back. This is the back of the bag. And this is the front. As you can see, the animals are all pointing this way. But if you look on my D pieces, the animals are pointing inwards. So when this joins on this side, it's all kind of wrong. So basically what I'm trying to say is make sure when you cut out your C and the B pieces, your D pieces are going the same directional. But I'm quite lucky because it's quite a multi-directional, well, it's a very busy print basically. So we're going to pop these on either the two short sides of the H and right side facing down. On all three pieces I've got woven interfacing on the back, and I'm just going to clip these into place. Okay, so I'm now going to sew, reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. I'm going to sew 3/8 of an inch away using a standard stitch length. So that's depending on your sewing machine, but that can be a 2.2 to 2.4 or 2.5. Please may we go to the other camera, please, Michael. Thank you. Michael will be redundant when I get a switcher box. He'll be going, hey. He is now, actually, to be fair. Michael doesn't do sewing. He likes packing your orders and stuff like that, but oh, he doesn't like packing your orders. He does. No, he likes packing the orders because I don't know if you've been buying from the shop recently, but you do get sweets in your order now. It's a new thing that I brought in. Spread a little love and a bit of sweetness. And yeah, he's nicking the sweets as he packs. So he likes it. He's getting paid. Please might go to the overhead camera, please, Michael. Not your iPad. Thank you. Right, so I've basically sewn those two pieces together. I'm now going to press them open. Now I'm going to press these seams so they go towards the H piece. So it just gives it an extra precaution of if you overfill the bag and stuff. So I'm going to set the seam first and then press it open. Press that towards that. So flip that over, flip it this way, because I'm khaki handed. There you go. Okay, and then the same with this one as well. Got a crease there, I'm going to get rid of that. No, we need this because we need to add the fleece. Right, so you're going to get your fusible fleece. Now if you've never used fusible fleece before, you've got a fleecy side which is quite rough feel, and then on this side you've got like a dotty glue side. Now the dotty glue side needs to be up. Now I'm going to flip this over because this is an old mat and I don't mind glue getting onto this part of the mat. That's my new mat, see. So then I'm going to get the right side of this and pop this down onto the glue. Now when you're setting fusible fleece, you don't rub, you just hold the iron into place, and if you've got steam in your iron, you need to use a little bit of steam. Now however, I'm quilting a project at the moment, so I don't like any water in my iron, so I've got a spritzer. I'm just going to spray water on top so it generates steam for me. And I'm basically just pressing that down into sections. Princess says I miss you. He'll be here, Princess. Right, so I've got this on a medium heat. I haven't got it on cotton heat because I just like to hold my iron in the area a bit longer than what you should do. Okay. And the good thing about a wool mat, it bounces the heat back up to the actual fleece. Now to test the fleece, to see if it's fused, you can run your fingers along this edge here, and if it lifts up, like it is lifting up there, you just go back and put some more heat on that area. Okay, so that's quite fused, it's just this one corner here. Okay. Okay, so this next step is totally up to you if you want to do it, but I like to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away where that seam is folded underneath here, and I like to do it 1/8 of an inch away on the H piece, which is the base piece, on both sides. I'm going to use a stitch length number 4 so it matches the stitch length of this one here. Please may we go to the front view camera, please, Michael. So I'm knocking my stitch length up to a stitch length number 4. I'm not going to reverse the stitch because it's going to be locked into a seam anyway. Okay, please may we go to the other camera. Right, so I've top stitched 1/8 of an inch away from the edge here. Now I'm just going to pop this to one side and we're going to work on the D-ring tabs and where they are positioned. So where are my D-ring tabs? There they are. So we're working on this diagram here, this drawing here. Okay. I've got some of these triangle ones actually come in. They were ordered today. So they are on their way. Well, they were ordered the other day, but I paid the custom charges today. So these are coming into the UK if anybody wants these ones. There is other places that sell them as well, like Emmeline and all that lot. So Okay, so I've got my 2 D-ring tabs, but you don't need these ones, you can go for D-rings if you want to. Got my 2 D-ring tabs, and on the reverse side, now remember from the past sew along, I actually ended up cutting slightly thinner, narrower. So I ended up cutting mine, here. I ended up cutting mine 1.5 inches wide, and technically it should be 2 inches wide because it should be a 1 inch D-ring that is meant to be within the actual what you will need. However, because these aren't 1 inch, these are 3/4 of an inch wide down here, I had to adjust it. So for those who are using the 3/4 inch ones, I'll recap what I actually cut. So I cut 1.5 inches by 4 inches rather than 2 inches by 4 inches. So on the wrong side, I've pressed it in 1/4 of an inch either side, and I've got this nice little gap, obviously for to take a bit of the bulk away. I'm going to pop this into my D-ring, so that's the little channel at the bottom of the triangle ring, and then I'm just going to bring that down to there, and then I'm going to bring this part up to match up to that piece there, and then I'm just going to stick those into place. So I'm going to run some quilter's tape along these 2 short ends here. And peel off the backing tape off both of those. Okay, so I'm going to fold that down onto the wrong side upon itself and stick that into place, and then I'm going to peel off this backing tape and repeat this, but this raw edge is going to match up to that raw edge, like so. Then the next thing I'm going to do is just run 2 bits of quilting tape on the back. I'm about 1/2 inch away from the D-ring or the triangle ring. Okay, so I'm just going to pop a clip into that and then just repeat the same process on the other one. And then obviously do the same, finish that with my nails, or lack of nails. Stick that down, flip it round, and then do exactly the same with this one. And they should both measure the same, so this one is 2 1/4 inches long, and this one is 2 1/4 inches long. Okay, so you're going to get this part and you're going to open it up. So this lining from the B is from the B is pointing down. So we're just working on the main outer here. You're going to need a quilter's roll. Back in a minute. There you go. You're going to need a quilter's roll, and you're going to look. It's all on this one diagram. It's on that one diagram of where you've got to stick that into position. So Okay, I need my second quarters roll. Okay, so we're going 3 inches across, like so. So that's where the D-ring tab should start. And then we're going from this edge here, so this side of the zip, we are measuring up 1.5 inches. So I like to use 2 quarters rolls and pop that there. And then obviously I've peeled off the backing tape, wrong side facing down, and my folded edge is buttoned up next to this one, and then this edge is buttoned up next to this one here. And then we're going to do the other one on this side here. So 3 inches in and 1.5 inches up, and then peel off that backing tape. Let's get rid of these pieces because my OCD is kicking in. Sorry, I can't work with mess. I don't know what it is. I just don't like mess. Freaks me out. You can ask my husband that. He clears the room when he knows I'm freaking out. Right, okay, I've stuck that one into place. Okay, so I'm going to sew as close as I can to these D-rings. Now, I'm going to leave my walking foot on because these are quite flat. However, I will use my bulky seam-aid if needs be. So this is a bulky seam-aid. You've got a fatter side and a thinner side. I use my thin side because it will match up to the height of where this one is. And I might need to run my my foot along so it rides on top of this and rides on top of this here. So my needle goes as close as I can get it to the actual rectangle rings. I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch all the way around in a box. Now if you're not going to use rivets or Chicago screws, you need to do it across, so in that rectangle. However, I'm going to do 2 rivets, and you'll see me set 2 rivets. So please may we go to the front view camera, please, Michael. Thank you. Right, I'm just going to get my rivets. Yeah. No, wrong ones. I think I might stop it out. Yeah, Percy Pig's got them. And my rivet. Okay, so with my bulky seam-aid, I'm going to use this top stitch of 4, stitch length number 4. I'm going to move my needle over as well. If you've got a thin walking foot, you won't need to move your needle over. However, because my walking foot's quite wide, I'm going to have to move it over. Just take your time. Just put my needle down. And make sure you reverse your stitch. So I'm just going to go forward a few stitches and then back. And then also forward. Make sure my needle is down before I pivot. And because my foot is riding at an angle, because it's on the actual rectangle ring or the D ring or whatever ring you're using, I need to put this underneath my foot at the front. So I'm going to pop this there so it rides off onto the bulky seam-aid. Then I'm going to stop and remove my bulky seam-aid and then just finish the rest of the rectangle. And when I come to where that triangle ring is, or D-ring, depending on what you're installing, my foot will ride up, and then that means there'll be jump stitches, so you need to pop this back underneath but at the back of the foot to level out that foot. One more stitch, and then just reverse your stitch at the end. And then repeat the same for the other tab. Okay, and then spin that around. Remove the bulky seam out. Get one more stitch there, and then go to where you started off at. Please now go to the overhead camera, please, Michael. Thank you. Okay, so I've top stitched all the way around in the rectangle. I'm going to punch 2 holes in the centre. But first of all, I'm going to measure and mark. Can you come and tidy my... No. No, I won't come and tidy anybody's. It stresses me out tidying up. Right, so because these are just under 3/4 of an inch wide, I'm going to measure 3/8 of an inch in and draw a chalk line. Oh, that's a fat chalk. So okay, so I know where the centre is, and I'm just going to measure up 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to measure down from where the fold over is, 3/4 of an inch down. I think I need to sharpen this. These are great tools. These are from Sewing Street. I'll never run out of lead with this because of the amount of lead that it comes with. Right, okay, so where I've done those 2 marks, I'm going to get my hole punch and punch some holes. If you've got a hole puncher on your rivet press or a hole punching tool, use that. That's 1, 2. Three. And last one. Okay. Okay, so if you watched last week's, you saw that rivets come in two parts. You got your cap, which has no barrel on. Oops. And then you have the cap that has a barrel on. Now, I've got 6mm barrel ones, which are going to be fine for this. If you're doing straps or something, you need to go for a bit wider. So for instance, if you're using PU, you need a barrel a bit longer. So if that's the case, you need to do like a 9. On my straps, which are over there, I can't reach them at the moment, I used a 9 barrel. Now I have got some 9 barrel ones coming in. So when I say the barrel, that's the bit that's sticking out like the thumbtack. So these have got a cap, the barrel, and then you've got the small cap here, which is the other side of the rivet. So I'm just going to pop those in. Doesn't matter which way you put the barrel in, whether it's through the wrong side or through the right side of the fabric. That not poke a hole? I did. There you go. Flip that over. Then your barrels come out to the wrong side. Then you get your clips, the cap part, and they should click into place. But that doesn't mean it's set. Just means that it's ready to be pressed in the press. Now if you've got Chicago screws, this is the side you will do the screw part in, but I've got a rivet press, so I'm just going to press those. Have you used it, Angie? And did you get this one in the end, or did you go for the green one? Okay, so I've now done that, and it looks nice and neat. So the next thing we're going to do is just base stitch along this row here and this row here. I'm going to make sure the zip pulls are out of the way. You're not going to base stitch this part because there's no really need, because we're going to pop the side gussets on anyway in a minute, so that will stop any of the zip pulls falling off. Please may we go to the overhead camera. Right, so I'm using the biggest stitch length possible on my zone. Pardon?
Front view.
Yeah, front view. Sorry, the other camera. I'm going to use the... Was I already on the front camera? No. Right, I'm going to use... Overhead. I was on the overhead, wasn't I? I'm going to use the longest stitch length, which is the stitch length number 5. And I'm just going to base stitch 1/8 of an inch away on each of those 2 long edges. Well, make sure your needle's back in the centre if you've moved it. There you go. Now hopefully you should be catching both the lining, the fleece and the main outer. You really don't need to back stitch, it's only to hold it into place temporarily. And do the same with the other one. Right, so I'm just popping my stitch length back to normal so I don't forget when I come to sew the next step. Please may we go to the overhead camera, please, Michael? Thank you. Right, so I've just base stitched down those two edges there. I'm going to get, pop that to one side now. I'm going to get the base that we attached to the two side gussets, these parts, and I'm going to get the base lining. First of all, before you go any further, make sure your base lining actually matches the length of your actual base and width as well. Mine's just slightly off, I can live with that. If it's overhanging, you need to trim it back to this here. Okay, so let's pop those out of the way. You're going to get your B and C pieces facing up, and you're going to get this wrong side facing down, and you're going to marry up the short edge here, and you're going to clip into place. At this point, make sure your zip pulls are into the center, because you don't want to be sewing over those zip pulls because they're quite chunky and you'll break a needle. Okay, and then I'm just going to flip this over, get this lining piece and flip this right side to right side of this lining. Now I've got fusible interfacing on this one as well, and that's the woven fuse it. And then I'm just going to pop the clips on. Okay, now I'm going to sew 3/8 of an inch all the way along this edge and reverse my stitch at the start and at the end. But while I'm at the sewing machine, I will bring this over, clip down this edge here, flip this over, clip this part here into place, and repeat the same step, and then we will top stitch once I've pressed it. So please may we go to the front view camera, please. I said overhead, and no again. So standard stitch length and 3.8. Make sure you reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. Okay, and then I'm just going to do exactly what I just said I'll do it on top of it. So I'm going to bring this over to here, clip this into place, flip it over, make sure that's perfectly neat, bring this over and clip that into place as well. Now before you sew it, double check both sides so you haven't got any bits kinking. No, I'm fine. So you're going to sew 3/8 of an inch away from this edge now, and stitch length 2.4 or 2.3, and reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. Okay, please now we go to the overhead camera, please, Michael. Thank you. Right, okay, so you've got this, and it should look like this, where your zip gusset is here, your base gusset and your lining gusset. So you're gonna work on your lining bit first and bring that round so it's on the actual side where your base gusset is. Then you're gonna turn it right side. Susan, I can't be bothered either sometimes to read patterns. I must admit, this is one of my things that I said, if I'm going to write patterns for myself as well as Sewing Street, there's got to be a video. Now I'm so behind on my videos, hence why the lives are happening. But yes, 100%, I'm so much like you. I'm dyslexic, so you should have seen Michael when he was having to proofread a pattern that I had to quickly rewrite at the weekend. He was laughing his socks off at some points, weren't you, Michael? And then you could see him go really quiet because he's trying to work out what I'm trying to get across. I knew exactly what I was trying to say, but obviously Michael, reading it from a different perspective, a total novice, he was there going, I'm sorry love, you're going to have to rewrite that bit again. Right, so what I have done is press the seam in towards the base on both sides. I'm just going to pop my iron through. Please may, Michael, sorry. Please may you pass me the tailor's ham? Here, this gingham one here, please. Thank you. Yeah, I know. If you've got a tailor's ham, pop that up inside. Make sure the seam is pointing down and just give it a bit of a press. Okay, and then just repeat it on the other side. This is the lives I do weekly in my club group, and we like do some of the patterns that you guys get like months down the line. So they always get them first, or if they don't get them first, they get them at the same time as you guys, but they get all the patterns free in the actual club. But everybody has joined the club because of that reason, because they just don't want to have to read the pattern, only just to look up measurements. Right, okay, so I've pressed the seam down. I'm going to pop this into my sewing machine, and I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Now I'm going to flip this so the lining is right side facing out. So when I top stitch, I move this part out of the way and stretch this a bit, so I'm pushing along this edge, and I'm going to top stitch on this part here 1/8 of an inch away from this edge. Then I will flip this over and do this side as well, 1/8 of an inch away. I'm going to use stitch length number 4. Please may we go to the front view camera. Now please bear with me, I'm just going to have a drink. Right, stitch length number 4. There you go. Pop that bit underneath, and 1/8 of an inch away on the D side. Now while my needle's down, you can be crafty, is you can actually flip this now and chain stitch. So if you're a quilter, you know what chain stitching is. Chain stitching is where you don't cut your thread and you just move on to the next seam. So I'm going to do that. Please now go to the overhead camera, please. Thank you. So because I've changed stitch, it's joined together, I'm just going to get my snips in there and trim that off. Okay. So you can, if you want to, base stitch. Let's turn this right side facing out. You can, if you want to, base stitch along this edge here and along this edge here to hold them into place. I'm not going to, because I don't need to, because I've done it quite a few times. However, I am going to clip a few clips just to hold that into position while I find the centres. flip that over and just do this other side. Okay, so we need to find the centre of the top and the centre of the bottom on both edges. So you need to match up key areas. Now you've got a key area here and here. So you're going to match that up to the other side. Like so. So I've got where my zip gusset starts and where my side gusset starts here. And then I've got my base part here matching up with this part here, and now I'm just going to pop a clip there. And I'm going to flip it over and do the same on this one. Just means that you can find your centres really accurately. Now also another common flaw is your centre won't be found if your zip pulls are in the centre, so you need to move your zip pulls out of that centre area, and then you can lie this flat. Just get your hand up if your lining isn't lying flat either. Okay, so you're going to snip into these areas here to find your centres, or mark depending on what you want to do. I'm just going to do 1/4 inch. It's quite blunt to do snips. Making sure my lining is flat before I snip it, because I don't want it to be slightly off. So this one here as well. And then same with this one here. Okay, so you now find the centres. I'm going to take those clips out. And then I'm just going to pop this to one side. And the second from last thing that we're going to do tonight is we're going to work on the slip pocket, inside slip pocket, onto the lining. Then we're going to put the lining onto the back of the front panel, and then we're going to attach the first part of the bag, the gusset, to the front part, and then we'll move over to the back part of the bag next time. Sorry Michael, I forgot to write down the date. Can you let me know when 2 weeks today is, what the actual date is, please? Can you have a look on the calendar, please? Thank you. The 21st, thanks. So the next sew along is the 21st. Right, so I'm going to add my label in as well at this point. It's a bit frayy, so I'm just going to oh, I love that smell. How bad am I? Right, okay, so if anybody from the UK wants these labels, they're from Ribbon Design UK or UK Ribbon Design. I'll set my date reminder. Yeah, the reminder post screen will be up in the next few days. I'm going to get Sewing Street out the way on Friday first, and then I'll put the stuff up. Right, so you've got one of your slip pockets. You've got your slip pocket. On the wrong side, now you're probably going to get used to me, I'm going to say interfacing, because I interface near enough everything to give the bag structure. So I've interfaced the wrong side of the lining fabric. Fold that in half. And I'm just going to clip down the two sides. So there's my fold. And I'm just going to clip about 1 inch away from the edge here. Okay, so I'm going to sew, reverse my stitch up here on the folds all the way down to using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance down to this bottom edge here. Then make sure my needle is down and pivot, and then sew up to where these clips are. Then I'm going to reverse my stitch. I'm leaving a 3 finger or more because I've got chubby hands turning gap. Please may we go to the front view camera, please, Michael. Thank you. You need to change your stitch length back to a standard stitch length. Okay, and that's 3/8 of an inch away from the edge. Make sure you definitely reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. Okay, so I've come to where the first clip was, and now I'm just moving over to the second clip. And reverse your stitch at the end as well. Please, may we go to the overhead camera, please, Michael. Okay. Let's turn this iron on to warm up. Okay, so we're going to trim back the seam allowance, and then we're going to trim back on the corner here. And what I tend to do is trim back half the seam allowance up to this point here and leave all this seam allowance here. So I'm going off at an angle. I'm about 1/8 to just before 1/2 inch away from that sewn line. And do that for both sewn lines. Okay, you need a chopstick or poke tool. You can get your chubby little fingers up inside and turn this right side facing out. Poking out those corners. I like to do the corners first before I turn it right side facing out, and then poke out those corners. I'm going to roll those seams as well because they'll be a bit chunky. Now I like to put my woven label up inside this turning gap here, so I'm going to press this turning gap. So I'm pushing those 2 raw edges up inside of that pocket. Make sure it's nice and neat, or as close as you can get it. Okay, and press. Make sure your seams are still rolled on the sides and press that up as well. I'll flip that over and do that side. Okay, where that turning gap is. Now you can do, before we actually sew down the sides, you could have put that in the sandwich to do it, and then it will come out that side. However, I don't like doing that. I like putting it up inside. I got a bit more control. There you go. And because when I flip this over, my wording, when they look into the bag, will be pointing up so they can read it. So I'm just going to pop a pin in that. Okay. Now there is no set position where this goes on your lining, inside your bag lining. I like mine in the centre but a bit further down, and the reason being is that it gives you enough room to get your mobile phone in and out. So I like to put it in the centre but quite a bit of a chunk down the bottom, but not where my woven label will get caught in the seam and that. So you will need your quilter's rule to level it all off. I use a post note at home. Oh yeah, Susan and her post-it notes. Okay, so I'm just making sure that's level. Now if you want to do mine, okay, so where I've positioned mine, so I've got here 1 3/4, 1 3/4 either side, if you want to use my measurements, that is. And I've gone down 3.5 inches if you want to use my measurements, that is. Now you can top stitch along that edge if you want to. I'm not going to, for the simple reason is that we are going to run out of time. I think I say in the pattern to top stitch the top of the pocket if you want to, before you pin it into place. Okay, so I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, both side edges and across the bottom, and then once I've crossed the bottom, that will close that turning gap and catch that label at the bottom. You can reverse, well, obviously you're going to reverse your stitch at the start and at the end, but you can actually do, on some designers, they do this like little triangle here. They sew a little triangle, which you get on jeans, on jean pockets. They do the same little triangle effect. Or if you want to go a bit fancy, you can get really tiny rivets. You can get like a 6mm cap rivet and pop those in there. I'm not going to, I think reversing your stitch is just enough. And I'm going to top stitch that with 3.5 stitch length. Please may we go to the front view camera. Thank you. So I'm just knocking my stitch length up to 3.5. Now I always make sure my needle starts on this part here, right next to where that fold is at the top. And then I go down, reverse my stitch, and then carry on across. And then when I come to finish it, my needle will end at the top of this slip pocket on this back part of the bag. There. I like to put my needle in manually at this point. There you go. And don't forget to remove those pins as you go. Make sure your needle is down before you pivot. And take that pin out now. Right, for the next step, I'm knocking my stitch length up to a size 5, and if we go to the overhead camera I'll explain why I've done that. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so we're going to be attaching this to this here, so let me just get rid of that. Okay, if you think this is going to get in the way, you can always pin that up, but always remember you've got to take a pin out. So I'm going to make my pin bright, so I'm using a bright one here. Okay, so I'll basically pin that out of the way. Just be careful of yourself. We need to base this to this, so you've got to match them up, wrong sides together, matching up the corners and the curves and all the way around. And pop. Move this handle out of the way as you clip around. And just run some more clips around. Okay, so you're going to base stitch both of these together using 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. When you come to the handles, you're going to have to pull them down. Use the longest stitch length possible on your sewing machine and reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. Please maybe go to the front of your camera. If you've got an extension table, put that on. Mine takes up too much room. So it's telling me my bobbin's running out, so I'm going to play chicken now with it. Knock your stitch length down back to standard stitch length for the next step, and this is going to be the last step I finish on tonight, once I've done this bit. Right, so the next thing, please maybe go to the overhead, please, I forgot. Right, okay, so we need to find the centre top and the centre bottom, so you're just going to fold that in half, match up those corners and snip. And take that pin out now for a minute. Bye, Sue. Might be a bit late saying goodbye. Yeah, we've got another live tomorrow in the club group. Now, anybody that's wanting to join the club group, there is a page within the website called Needle and Threaders at the top. It's actually not called Needle and Threaders no more, it's called Threads Gang. However, we're struggling to change the title on that on the actual bar, the menu bar. However, we've got 3 tiers that have just opened up. One is a full digital tier where you get everything in the group and all the digital downloads and that, and plus the discount, the monthly discount, plus any offers that I can bring in, because like we've just had a kit of rainbow hardware that I did for a steal. And then I go live 3 times a month in that group, and then we work towards patterns. This is the pattern that we're working on at the moment, which is going on Sewing Street on Friday. So we're working on this one at the moment, Trixie, which is my own personal pattern. And there is a second tier which every 3 months you get a goodie box through the post. That's for UK customers only. And then there's a tier 3 which is like all in luxury one. So if anybody wants to join up, you're more than welcome. We've got spaces. Right, so I'm going to flip this right side facing in. Right, so this is my C side and this is my B side. We're going to work on the C side because that's the front of the bag. I know I can't say C right, can I? The letter C. The letter C side, because he's saying that I say it like the C side. And then I'm working on this top part here. I'm going to flip this over, tuck my handle up inside, and match up this top center seam up to this top center seam here and clip. To be in the club though, you must have a Facebook account because we do everything in a really private group on Facebook. And then we're going for the center mark here of this front panel to the center mark, which is on the base, and we're clipping all the layers together now because this is a bias binded edge, and then you're just going to keep clipping all the way around. So I like to do the top and the bottom first, then bring in the 2 sides, and then if I have to, snip around the corners on the gusset. You shouldn't have to if I've done my maths right, but it also depends on how accurate your cutting out is. Okay, so I bring that up and see if my side seams are going to match, and they generally are. So I'm going to bring that up to there and clip. Might have to take it out, don't know yet, and bring that one up here. I'm going to carry on clipping either side of this clip at the moment. Oh, thank you, Dawn. Put that there and there. Okay, so this needs to move a bit, I think. So I'm just going to clip that corner. Yeah, that's better. So what you'll notice is on the front panel, I'll show you on the back panel. On the front panel where this part is this edge here, on the front panel should match up to the base panel edge. Pop a clip there as well. So let me just double check. Nope. Go around. There you go. There you go. So it wasn't spot on. There you go. I can clip these corners now. I know that's perfect. And just carry on clipping down the sides. And it is a perfect fit. As you can see, it's fitting in perfectly here. Because this is a corner and it's quite a sharpish corner, pop a few more clips in than normal. And then just unclip that, do the same. I'm going to move those zip holes down to the bottom of the gusset. By doing that, because they were lying here where the curve is, this was going a bit wibbly wobbly, so nice terminology there, wibbly wobbly. And that means it will go nice and snug inside there as well. Yeah, you need to eat, Angie. Right, so I'm now going to sew all the way around. I'm going to use a stitch length, standard stitch length, which is a 2.4. I'm going to sew from this side, so I'm going to push this out of the way as I go along. And then when we come to the edge here, this corner, I tend to find if I open up the zip, it means that you get a nicer finish around the corners. So I'm going to open up that zip now. Pull that into the centre a bit, and then when we come to it, you can push it down better when you go around that corner. Make sure this is out the way, which is your handle, and when you come to the corners, knock your stitch length down even more. So I'm stitching with a 2.4 on my sewing machine to start off with, then I'm going to knock it down to probably a 1.8 when I go around these two corners here and around these two base corners here. And then when I'm going back down the straights, I'll knock it back up to a 2.4 again. Please may we go to the front view camera, please, Michael. Okay, make sure you reverse your stitch at the start and at the end, and remove those clips as you go. And you're doing 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Oh. If you have got an extension table, this is the time to put it on, but yeah, put the needle down. Right, stitch length 2.4 until I come to where that first corner is. I'm hoping I've got enough thread in here to last me. I should do. Right, so I'm coming to that corner, I'm knocking down my stitch length to a 2.8. Just adjusting the material underneath my foot so it doesn't gather up. Okay, and now I've gone around that corner, I'm knocking my stitch length back up to a 2.4. Keep moving that fabric out of the way and squashing it down. Your iron comes your friend on these types of projects where you have to squash a lot, so you can press it out afterwards. Right, I've just come into that corner, knock my stitch length down again to a 1.8. Oh, I've run out. Hang on, just bear with me. Knew I would. Oh, I managed to reverse my stitch. There you go. Okay, let's go back to where I was. And then back to the standard stitch length. Change my stitch length again. Second corner from last. Okay, back up to normal stitch length. Back down to a smaller stitch length last time. And then make sure you reverse your stitch at the end. Okay. Sorry, that's noisy. Do apologise. Right, okay, please may we go to the overhead camera. Right, so I'm just going to do that zip up, pop the handle inside. And I'm just going to pop it right side facing out. Get a pokey tool in to see if your corners are perfect. I've got a few little creases at the bottom. I'm not worried about them at the moment on those corners. They will come out when I do the binding. So I've got a little crease there that will come out when I do the binding. Now you get a pokey stick and run it this side of the seam all the way around, because then you can see what it's going to be like when you actually come to bind it. Okay, so as you can see, that's what the front will look like. That's absolutely gorgeous. I love this fabric. First time using it, but the start of the bag is done, and that's the front. And then we're going to move on to next week. Not next week, the 21st. We're going to add the zip pocket to the back. Now the point of the zip pocket at the back is because you've got two straps. That's depending on if you're a large person like me who needs two straps to make the rucksack, or you basically want to carry it on your crossbody and you do it from the 2D rings which are either side on here. You can put the one strap inside here. Now it doesn't have to be for the second strap, but that's what that pocket is there for. And then we will do the inside zip pocket for the lining, and then we will attach the binding. Now the bias binding, I'm not going to be teaching you how to make the bias binding. You're going to have to go over to the video within the actual YouTube channel. Please may we go to the front view camera. You're going to have to go to down in the description. In the description you'll see a bias binding video. and once this video is up, which is non-live, there'll be an iCard that comes up. So that's the little eye that pops up in whatever corner it is on the screen. If you click on that, it will pop down like a little menu of supporting videos to go along with this sew along. Watch that to show you how to make bias binding my way. Now, it's not the most economical way, it's just how I was taught as a child, and I've only ever done that way in the past. But if you like to do the tube way, which is where you sew all the seams together and then you cut it and you keep cutting and going round and round, you can do it that way. It's totally up to you, but just remember to keep it the same width as what the pattern actually tells you to, and the length that you actually need. I want to thank everybody for all the comments from last time, and if I've missed any of the comments tonight, I will go into the comments and have a read. I might not be able to comment on them, but if I can't, I will comment on the comments below and basically tag your name into it. Thanks ever so much for joining me. Michael, he's saying bye. And yeah, please don't hesitate to ask any questions within the Facebook group. To find the pattern, you'll find it up in the Facebook group in the file section. It's under 2 files, which is the templates and then the written pieces. And we'll be back here on the 21st. We're ready to go, Michael? He's playing on his mobile phone. Have a nice evening, guys, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.